Welcome, wrestling fans, to the PW Fan. The PW Fan is a pro wrestling podcast created by fans for fans, and we appreciate you joining us for episode 28, and there is a lot we have to discuss this week. I am your host, the old school wrestling fan, collector, barber, and musician, Talk Wrestling, Tim Gilbert.
And I'm your host, the architect of pro wrestling podcast, Andy.
I am also your host, the No Sound Wrestling Indie fan, Jeremy.
I think you guys need to add some more accolades in, so I just don't sound like so much of a douchebag. But okay,
oh no, I can be the gaming architect. Of
there you
wrestling
go.
Podcast.
Today, we're going to be talking about Scott Hall passing away, Cody Rhodes signing with AEW, which is crazy. We'll get into it.
Signing with WWE.
Or sorry,
actually,
signing with WWE. Excuse me. Yes. Then
that would be crazy if he re-signed with AEW.
Okay, and we're going to be talking about a new AEW Women's Champion. So big week. But first, guys, I think we need to touch on Scott Hall. He did unfortunately pass away. On the last episode, we were talking that he wasn't in good condition. And
we were talking about how he was on life support, and literally the next day they took him off of life support.
Yeah. So it's very unfortunate. I did see, we all see, and we'll get into it. Both shows at this point have done dedications to him, shout outs to him.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the most heart-wrenching for me to read was the Kevin Nash one. Just because when you think of Scott Hall or you think of Kevin Nash, a lot of the times in your head you like see the two of them together as a unit. So I just feel really bad for his family and everybody, but yeah, it just is such a shame.
Yeah, it was all the members of the clique that made me bummed. Like Triple H said he was gutted. I think Shawn Michaels said, "I love you, my friend." And then X-Pac, I can't remember, but he had a good one too. DDP's actually made me laugh, which that was a nice little change.
It's always hard to hear when you read all those stories like Kevin Nash, how he did his posts and like basically told like all those stories, and then you realize like how important he is to everyone basically.
Yeah, there was a lot of not just like his close friends, but like just wrestlers in the industry who were like influenced by him or really liked his wrestling. And he was known for like being really like have a really good mind for the business, and a lot of people would come to him about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on like last week. I just wanted to bring up a couple of Scott Hall things, and then we'll move on. But and just in light of recent events, I love Scott Hall. Like I said last week, I got tons of figures here. I'm a big action figure guy. I'm not ashamed to admit it. And I got, I think, like 6 Scott Hall figures. That's somewhere behind me in this room. So he's definitely a person that's made an impact on my life. I've loved the NWO. He just was so cool, like he had like a swagger to him that like I not envied, but like just like even when you're like walking around, it's like, man, like it's almost like I wish I was that cool, like he didn't even have to try.
Coolest bad guy.
Yeah, he didn't have to try. That was just like how he is, the way he talked, like all that stuff was just like him as a person, which is super cool. And then he expanded upon that with the Razor Ramon character, adding a little bit of like the accent in there. And then when he was in the MWO, it was just cool to the max. Like that was like everything that at the time, especially in the 90s, like they were current and hip. They brought the hip hop influence into the wrestling world, wearing like the Tupac bandanas and stuff. But what we all did this week, I know at least Andy and I did, we were talking about it, is we watched a few Scott Hall matches. The one that I did watch was him and Bret Hart at the Royal Rumble. It was for the WWF Championship. It's a great match.
It was the same one that I was going to say I did.
Okay, cool. No, that's good though, so we can like get into it a little bit. So I think that that's a good one to choose because one, a lot of people are familiar with the NWO, WCW Scott Hall stuff. Not a lot of people besides, I guess, like, new gen fans have seen much Razor Ramon stuff. Like, a lot of people have seen that ladder match because that's been on, like, every DVD and highlight reel forever, the one against Shawn Michaels for the double Intercontinental title. But this is an interesting match because, one, Scott doesn't, or Razor Ramon in this match, he doesn't win the match. And it's for the title. And that's kind of like the big story with him, is that he never won a world championship. He's like the best wrestler that never won a world championship. I would say him and Kurt Hennig are the two.
You know what's crazy just about this match?
Both very good Intercontinental champions.
Yeah.
Both those guys, but never won the main title.
The crazy thing I didn't know was this was his only title match on a pay-per-view for WWF ever.
Yep.
Which I didn't realize that.
And just like, you know, for me being like the in-ring, I like the in-ring stuff. I think this is a good one to watch because it shows that I think the NWO stuff sometimes gives Scott Hall and Kevin Nash a bad rap. Like Scott Hall wasn't a good worker or like couldn't wrestle, and it was all just like smoke and mirrors kind of stuff. And I think like this is a good example that shows that like he can do all that stuff. So he's not only like was a good worker, which everybody talked about, but his mind for the business was incredible. And the last thing I'll say on him on my part is Sting. There's a story on it. There's lots of DVDs you guys can look. I think it's in the Razor Ramon DVD. But Sting was growing his hair and he was starting to change his character a little bit, and he wasn't really sure what he was doing. And this is the quote. He said, "Hey, are you growing your hair long?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "Are you going to bleach it anymore?" He's like, "No." And he said, like, "Are you still going to wear like the happy-go-lucky good guy tights?" And he was like, "Well, I'm not sure what I'm doing yet." And he asked him, "Have you ever seen the movie The Crow?" And he said, "No, I haven't." So then he explained to him what it was, and then I guess Steve Borden went home and watched the movie. And that's how the Sting Crow character, one of the most iconic wrestling characters ever, maybe in the top 5, was born. And that's all Scott Hall just giving somebody like a little bit of an idea and just saying, "Hey, you should do this." And I just think that's so cool because this Sting Crow character is so influential on my wrestling life. Like, I love that character, and that came out of Scott Hall's brain in a way, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So at least for my part on this match, one of the reasons I chose it and also watched it again, because also like obviously because Razor Ramon's in it, but Bret Hart is also one of my favorites ever. So
agreed.
And I don't think they really had many matches at all other than this one, right?
Yeah. And just real quick, like CM Punk said, Bret was always right.
Yeah.
All right, keep going, Jeremy.
So, yeah, this was one of the few between these two. So that's one of the reasons I chose in. It's also, I think it was because I have a few notes on it right here. And I think Razor Ramon got put into it because Ultimate Warrior recently got released right before this. And so he was kind of like just like thrusted into this match. And which is another reason that it was such a great match, and it was like is not that much build up at all for what they wanted to do, I guess. Yeah, and the psychology that he always brings into it, it's like the part that like I think during this match, he was like focused on the ribs because he didn't want to like obviously get into the sharpshooter and all this stuff. It's just like those details in the matches that maybe you don't see all the time right now anymore.
I love that about matches when they hint at there's something going on that is going to come into play later, and that's storytelling. So, like, the ribs are like, there's lots of matches where things like that have been planted in the beginning where it becomes a factor later on. So, yeah, I totally get what you're saying. I thought the match was cool. But, Andy, so you watched a few, man. What do you got for us?
Okay, so I didn't plan on watching a few. It just happened because, so my original pick was, one, I wanted to pick a match I'd never seen with Scott Hall or Razor Ramon. So I picked The Rock versus Scott Hall on SmackDown. It was like 2 weeks before Mania 18. and because I'd never seen them wrestle each other before. So I started watching it, but I think after about like only 5 minutes of wrestling, the NWO got involved, and then Austin came out with chairs, and it was disqualification basically.
So you're like,
this happened. There was no clear winner.
So you're like, all right, this isn't a good enough match to review for. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and for those like 5 minutes that they were actually wrestling, it was good. But I was just like, this isn't a good one to review. So then I was searching. I was like, 2004 Impact Wrestling, Scott Hall versus AJ Styles. I was like, okay,
that's an interesting choice.
It was only like what. It was only 2 years after that Rock match, so I was like, okay, like his issues weren't as crazy as they would eventually get to be. And this was actually, it was a good match, and I was going to talk about this one, as my only one. But then I found out that Razor Ramon on a Monday Night Raw Intercontinental Championship match wrestled Owen Hart. And I was like,
banger.
I was like, I gotta watch this. So I watched that, and that was even better than the AJ Styles match.
Well, yeah, he's like 10 years younger and facing Owen Hart.
Yeah, it was like January. It was like January of 1995. It had to have been like right before he left to go to WCW. Yeah, and it was Owen Hart. Speaks for himself with his wrestling. You had Shawn Michaels on commentary. Yeah, I don't know, man. It was just really good. The winner was Razor Ramon in the end. I think it's because Britt came out and interfered. So none of these had clean finishes, except for I think the AJ Styles. No, the AJ Styles match too was Jeff Jarrett came out and hit him in the head with a guitar. None of them had clean finishes.
Yeah, what's funny is like you can almost picture Scott Hall being in the back, being like, I mean, maybe someone comes out and
yeah. And you had Nash at ringside during the TNA Impact one, and yeah, you had Shawn Michaels on commentary during the Owen Hart one, and then you had all the NWO during the Rock one. So like his buddies are involved in every single one, but I mean, I think the AJ Styles match is good and worth checking out. But the Owen Hart one, definitely. If you can find a clearer video than the one I watched, definitely find it. But they have it on YouTube. It's like 2 parts.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. They were all matches I hadn't seen before.
Yeah, I think we close on Scott Hall with this and just say, if there's anybody listening to this show that has not seen Shawn Michaels versus Scott Hall for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania, go watch that match. And that's the only reason we're not bringing it up, because in my mind,
the first ladder match, right?
In WWE, yes.
Very first ladder match. Yeah, in WWE.
In WWE. Other people were doing it other places, but that was the first one that they did. And I think there was one on maybe a house show, but this is like the first one that was on pay-per-view. And it was at Mania. So yeah, go watch that. I just didn't bring it up because it's almost like, the obvious thing in the room where it's like, oh, of course people have seen that. But if you haven't, obviously go watch that.
I think Razor Ramon wins in the end.
That one, yes, he does.
He stands on top of the ladder with both belts.
Now, a lot of people will say, "Oh, Shawn had a match with a ladder in that match," and I don't think that's fair. Like, I've gone back and watched it a lot, and like Scott does his thing too, and he's awesome. So, yeah, I just want to say this, and we'll move on. Rest in peace, Scott Hall. Thank you so much for everything. Really, like, you are iconic, dude. You are the fucking man, NWO for life. And that's all I'm going to say. We can move on from there.
All right. Well, if we're moving on from there, the next big story this week was, which many had speculated, but it has been officially announced online that Cody Rhodes has signed with WWE. Apparently, he had actually signed like 10 to 14 days ago. They were just keeping it under wraps. I think the plan right now is to bring him out at Mania, kind of like the Hardy Boys, a couple years ago. I predict, Seth is going to be out there demanding a match with someone, and then Cody comes out, because I think the plan is still to have Cody Rhodes wrestle Seth, and then I believe after Mania he's going to be a Raw superstar. So that's pretty big news.
It's going to be.
I think we all saw it coming.
Yeah, I'm wondering how long, like, because when Cody left WWE, I actually wasn't that interested in him. Like, he was like pretty good overall, but then once he left and became a huge star, then like that's the Cody that I liked more. So I'm curious to see like how he.
Yeah, I mean, this is my favorite version of Cody. Is the Cody that left and was in AEW.
So I'm curious to see how he translates that into Raw.
I mean, he had terrible gimmicks before. So.
Okay, hang on. Comparison. If we're getting really specific here, just to be fair, the best Cody Rhodes gimmick is the Ring of Honor gimmick, where he's the American Nightmare and has the ring. You
mean after W? So you're saying after WWE, but before AEW?
Yes, because AEW kind of starts like that, but then all of a sudden, next thing you know, he's like full blown Captain America.
Yeah, when he started AEW, it was like I would be like going off the roof for him, like when he came out.
Oh, me too. I was like
a month. I go like, all right, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when like he was like in the Bullet Club and all that. I mean, that was a great version of Cody Rhodes.
Yeah,
he had some good matches with Kenny.
Yeah, it was cool stuff.
I feel like he did like that stupid like title thing. Like he's like, I can't challenge for a title if I lose, and that like went down
that just like was a bad that was a really
it was also too early on in the company.
To
do that.
That was like a couple months in to do that.
Yeah. That is the one thing. It's like, we all know that those guys were the EVPs, but at the same time, like, part of me is like, should they have just like left that part alone? Like, we know that, right? So it's like maybe not even bring that up, and then just have everything else be normal. Because, like you said, as soon as you made it, like, it made Cody seem like he was like it was like Tony Khan, and then Cody Rhodes. So the fact that Cody Rhodes like didn't re-sign and is now signing with WWE or supposedly allegedly, it's like, what? I thought this was the guy. Like there was the Cody gif where he's like doing the Hulk Hogan ear, where it's like any talent that like was about to leave WWE was like, oh, come to AEW, and all of a sudden he's not there anymore. And I'm like, it just, I associated him so hard with being an office person with AEW, and the fact that maybe he really wasn't that much, I don't know.
Well, you know what's funny about this? So before we started doing the podcast, there's a resurfaced Cody Rhodes interview about AEW that does not age well.
It was a year ago.
If you guys saw this, he said in the interview, he said, "I want to stay an executive vice president of all elite wrestling, and I've told Tony Khan this until I die. This is the end of my road. I can't necessarily go back. The others can change, but I really can't." Well,
and I'm not going to get on I'm not going to get super philosophical with our listeners, because that's not what we do on the show when we're talking wrestling. But sometimes when you say something and you remember what you say, it almost affects your decision on what you're doing, because you hold yourself accountable for your own words, and it's almost like you don't want to let yourself down. But at the same time, if it's for your mental health or if there's other reasons, obviously that's a different story. My thing is, dude was getting paid, right? Either way, no matter what company he's going into. Like, he might get more money.
He also had a kid during that time. Like, his life had changed a little bit.
But my thing is, like, he knows that he said that, right? So when you make that, you make that decision to leave, in your head, you have to know that you're going against something that you've said, and there's probably going to be backlash. And there is, but, he's got to do what's right for him. Like, I have a mixed opinion on it, and it sounds like I'm, like, back and forth, because he just got me so hyped on, like, being like, yeah, we're going to show WWE what's up. And then all of a sudden it's like, dude, you went back to WWE? What the hell? Like, you just, like, went against literally everything.
Yeah. But we don't know the how it was backstage and all that.
And that's the thing, like,
backstage politics.
Chavo Guerrero said that, for his experience, like, it's not that it's bad, it's just not like maybe it's not like the amazing thing that everybody makes it out to be, you know? He just said that there's a lot of people.
Chavo does seem a little bit bitter.
He's a little bit
Chavo, Chavo is bitter when he's saying this stuff.
Well, yeah, my man didn't get that call back. I think he's a little upset about that.
And Tony called him that post-media scrum thing. Is like, yeah, I should probably call him back. He's just ripping you apart right now.
Dude, Tony Khan...
I hope Cody...
No, I just want to say, like, Tony Khan's, like, cool, but he can be a little sus sometimes, too. Like, he's just, like, just, it's kind of sketch. Like, he's just like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, dude, I'll just never, ever forget the reason why I fired Big Swole is this. Dynamite tonight, or whatever it was, Rampage.
Yeah. Those could have been two separate tweets, guys.
Let's close up for Cody Rhodes, and just by saying, like, I hope when he comes to WWE, he doesn't just get pushed to the wayside, like being the new toy for a few weeks and then just like dropped.
Bro, but
hope
like
that doesn't happen.
I'm just keeping it real.
Or even goes back to Stardust.
Maybe not the Stardust thing. Maybe he'll draw the line there, but even there's ebbs and flows.
He's got that neck tat now.
There's ebbs and flows in WWE. Even the guys that are the main attractions, sometimes something happens. I mean, Stone Cold went through a period where right before he walked out on the company, like he was about to lose to Brock Lesnar, and we're talking Stone Cold Steve Austin. So what I'm saying is like there's phases that these things go through. Cody's going to come in. He's going to have a ton of hype. All the AEW fans are going to be hyped. And then, like, why in my head, and I wonder if there's anybody else listening, 3 months from now, he's wrestling Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental title. Like, it's like, dude, and then
exactly what I'm thinking.
Yeah, and then
hopefully
what?
It's not Sami. Hopefully it's Ricochet.
But it's like he just winds up in the Dolph Ziggler position where it's just like you do stuff and you just get a good paycheck.
Yeah. They'll probably do a program with him and Roman at some point. Roman being the heel.
Yeah, well, just thinking like Cody can't, like, how he does those promos that were really good in AEW. He can't do it like that in WWE at all.
There's
like he's not
nothing
going to have
coming from the
15
heart
minutes
anymore.
Well, he also doesn't have the anti-authority to go against, because all those heartfelt promos where he's tearing up and he's talking anti-WWE stuff. So now what's he going to talk about?
Right.
Anti-AEW.
No, he wouldn't. No, he won't. He won't.
No, he won't.
He won't do that. I doubt it.
Do you want to? Is there anything you want to say before we wrap up the Cody Rhodes thing, or is that pretty much?
No, I think that's good. I'm just glad that we're getting into some details into some stuff tonight. Like I think some of the listeners like when we really dig a little bit. Like, there's one thing when you say, yeah, I like the match. The match was good. Something. But like, yeah, I like that we're kind of really digging tonight, getting some good stuff out. This is cool. So yeah, what you got next?
Well, just one more thing before we get into the actual shows this week. So I watch NXT UK every week, and this week they had Roderick Strong wrestle. I think his name is Wolfgang. He's part of Gallus over in NXT UK. Good match, but at the end, he challenges Ilya Dragunov to an NXT UK Championship match, and this match could end up being super good. And I don't know if they'll do it at like Stand and Deliver because it's an NXT pay-per-view, and sometimes they bring over the UK Championship. But yeah, the idea of Roderick Strong versus Ilya Dragunov sounds very hard-hitting and could, be just a banger. I hope it's not just on NXT UK.
Yeah, that should definitely be on pay-per-view.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good
finally
idea that they're doing.
Finally we're getting something that feels familiar from that brand. That doesn't feel
2.0.
Well, this is NXT UK, which has not had a facelift yet.
Yeah.
So,
which is so wild. It's almost like NXT UK is like flying under the radar. They're just like letting them do their thing.
So far, man.
It's like Vince
they got Regal's son wrestles there. He's really good. you have this guy. I want to say Ben Carter, but they changed his name, and I always forget what his new name is. But okay, so let's get into Raw. This week, if I can grab my thing. Okay, so there was a Kevin Owens segment, which is Stone Cold Steve Austin accepted his challenge, so he's going off on the mic. And this kind of leads to the story of the night was like Owens has something going on at Mania, and his buddy Seth Rollins does not. And at one point, there's an interview with Rollins backstage. And he's being pretty quiet, not saying anything, and then you can hear chants. And what I got out of the chants was they were chanting Cody during this backstage Rollins segment.
Yeah,
so
I think so.
Some people are in the know.
Well, hopefully they are.
Yeah. So we'll come back to that in a second, but the later on in the night there was I think it was a match with the women's tag teams, but what really matters about all of that is that now the women's tag team titles at Mania is going to be Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan versus Carmella and Queen Zelina, who are the champs, versus Sasha Banks and Naomi. At this point in time during this week on Raw, that's the plan for this. Now back to the Owens and Rollins thing. Sometime afterwards, Rollins backstage with Kevin Owens, and he basically Owens is trying to talk to him, and he's like, make your own, make your own moment at Mania. So Rollins says he has an idea, and he's going to tell everyone later in the night. Again, we're going to have to get back to that as the show goes on. It's in and out with this Rollins and Owens thing. We get another Edge segment in the ring, which was, very good. They changed his music. I personally hate it.
Dude,
he no longer has
what in the hell
classic.
It's his favorite thing.
No.
He's talked about it so many times. He's like, I have the best theme music ever. Like
he just might in wrestling. He's one of the best.
I wonder what kind of convincing that took. Or maybe it was his idea. I just highly doubt it, considering.
Maybe it's just for this version of him, this dark, and that's what this segment was about, like him just
being dark.
I don't know. Did you guys watch this segment? Like, he's just a darker Seth Rollins. Obviously, he's the heel, or darker Edge. Obviously, he's the heel in this AJ Styles and Edge match at Mania. I think AJ Styles is returning this week after being concertoed twice and missing Raw last week. So I think AJ is going to confront Edge.
It did seem kind of like a segment. There's like, let's just have the heel go out and give a promo while the other guy heals.
Yeah. Just
to fill time.
They really didn't have to. They could have just waited till next week when AJ comes back. But
they could have showed like another replay of whatever happened last week.
Yeah, because this segment wasn't nearly as good as the one he had done last week when he came out in like the suit and the all black, but it's just the further storyline. So
I'm assuming the
back
music
to Rollins and
the music change is definitely going to be temporary.
Oh God,
better be.
He's going to come out to Mania to this music, like, not a fan. I think some people are. I just wasn't. So. Maybe it's just me, but so Seth Rollins' big idea is that he's going to have his own talk show at Mania, and he's going to have Stone Cold be his guest. And Owens is like, "What?
What is happening?"
Yeah,
Owens is like, "What?" He's like, "That's my guest." He's like, "No." He's like, "But he should be my guest." And the idea for the main event of this night is Sonya Deville says, "You guys are going to have a match, and the winner gets to have Stone Cold Steve Austin as the guest." One, it doesn't make sense because they've been hyping up Owens and Steve Austin and their storyline. So even if Rollins wins, it would just be like, what? They have the match. It was a good match, but Owens won, so he's still having Stone Cold, and Rollins does not have an opponent. But like we said, I'm like 99% sure it's going to be Cody Rhodes at Mania.
That was such a weird way to do Raw.
It was like they just needed something on the show, and they did that. I don't know, dude. It was a stupid idea. made by bad creative.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Hang on, you forgot the part where if you're watching on YouTube, that's the only place you're going to be able to see this. But it's a stupid idea, be bad creative.
Yeah.
Oh, and then you did the Jericho face.
Yeah, he does like the blue steel.
He was doing it. He was doing it a lot this week. So yeah, let's get into that because that was all that is going on with Raw this week. Let's get into Dynamite. I might run through it a little bit quicker than normal just because we had such a long beginning before we got into these shows. But this week was the St. Patrick's Day Slam. Our first match was Adam Cole with Red Dragon versus Adam Page and Jurassic Express.
Doesn't Adam Cole...
Winners were Adam Cole.
No, you keep going. I'm sorry.
Oh, you can say whatever you want.
No, I was just going to say, like, obviously because it's Undisputed Era, but doesn't Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly coming out with Adam Cole just looks so right? I'm like, this is just how it's supposed to be. It like just looks
they wait
good.
for him at the top of the ramp, and then Cole comes out, and then they all pose when Adam Cole does the Bebe in the ring. And it's just like,
And they were coming out to Adam Cole's music, which is very, probably on purpose, reminiscent of the Undisputed Era music. And like it just like,
but yeah, you're right. It does look right. It feels right.
It just looks right.
Yeah.
It feels right. I'm like, yeah. I miss those guys. I love the Undisputed Era, man. Sick.
But the winners of this match were Adam Cole and Red Dragon. There was some cool spots. There was like a triple like moonsault spot where Luchasaurus was on the apron, does a moonsault. Don't remember who's doing to who, but then someone was I believe Jungle Boy was in the ring doing the moonsault, and then Hangman Adam Page did a moonsault from like one of the turnbuckles at the post to the outside, and it was all done at the same time. It was a cool little spot they did. I'm sure Adam Cole and Red Dragon were waiting around to get hit, but it was a nice little spot. I enjoyed the match. Adam Cole seems to always open up shows in some way, which is what this was.
That was a great way to start the show. I thought it was interesting. Like when they first came out, like Red Dragon, Adam Cole got like a pretty good pop, and then Jungle Express came out, or Jurassic Express. They came out, and they're like the crowd went crazy, and I was like, "Oh, what's going to happen with Hangman?" And he came out, and it was like the biggest pop, and I was like, "Oh, all right." So he's still, people are actually believing in him for a champion.
So after this, we had Keith Lee, Ricky Starks, and Powerhouse Hobbs backstage. It seems like Keith Lee is now in a program with people from Team Taz.
It seems like when you're a new person, you have to go through Team Taz to be like initiated into AEW.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You can't go through anything else. Yeah, which we'll talk about more of someone else who's now dealing with Team Taz because of the Keith Lee once we talk about Rampage. We had a match, though, afterwards. It was Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson with William Regal versus Chuck Taylor and Wheeler Yuta with Trent Beretta, Orange Cassidy, and Danhausen. One, I thought this was actually a really good match, especially Wheeler Yuta's really good.
Yeah.
I'm not big on his look, but he's really good, and we've covered some of his matches before in the past, and I think it was his match against Adam Cole we talked about a while ago, and I thought it was really good. But the winners were Moxley and Danielson. Who didn't see that coming? When Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends and that whole group is leaving, Wheeler Yuta goes back into the ring, and he goes to shake Regal's hand. But Regal slaps the absolute shit out of him, dude.
I was like,
God damn. That was awesome.
I was like, oh my God. And he gets in Regal's face, and Regal backs up a little bit and flinches, and then he starts smiling. Danielson gets up there, and there's no mic, but if you listen closely or read his lips, Regal says, "Why don't you prove yourself a little bit more, sunshine, and then maybe we'll talk."
They're calling it the slap of honor.
They're calling it the what?
Slap of honor from Regal.
Oh, dude! Like
that's so awesome.
And then got right back in his face, and it was. I was like, God damn.
But this is how you make a new star. Like, no one cared about Wheeler Yuta before, and now, like, people were chanting his name.
Right, we're talking about him.
Yeah.
We're talking about him right now, aren't we?
The whole arena was chanting his name.
And this is the kind of thing, though, that Danielson was talking about. Like, we should take someone under our wing.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see where it goes from there. Yeah, I like Regal with this group. This group is a force to be reckoned with.
And Regal was on commentary, wasn't he? For this one?
I thought he was on just at the side.
Oh, he might have been on side.
Maybe he was on. Maybe he was on commentary.
I don't know.
No. Because he would have had to pass like Orange Cassidy and everyone coming back down the ramp then, because he ended up in the ring. So I think it was just at the outside.
Right. Okay.
So after this, we had FTR backstage talking about how they fired Tully. The Young Bucks walk up. Can't remember what they talked about, but I don't think
they dropped a hint about. It sounded like Bret Hart, like being a manager for.
That's right.
What, FTR?
There is a rumor that that FTR might end up having Bret Hart, which not everyone knows, but I think some wrestling fans know that the Hart Foundation is like those two guys' favorite tag team of all time.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah,
so then we have the Acclaim backstage. Yeah. Then we have the Acclaim backstage. Who, dude, I love the Acclaimed. Acclaim is awesome.
They're one of my favorite tag teams now.
They're hyping up the match of Keith Lee and Max Caster happening on Rampage this week. Ricky Starks and Hobbs walk up, and then Swerve Strickland walks up. So it looks like there's a little alliance with Keith Lee going on when it comes to Ricky Starks and Hobbs.
I like how.
Then there's.
Sorry, Max Caster at the end of that, he's like,
yeah.
Isn't that guy a rapper? Or isn't that rapper guy?
Yeah, that's right. That's what he says. So then we have the next segment, which I, thinking about it, loved. It's genius. The Jericho Appreciation Society commencement, guys. This is awesome.
Yeah.
This is an awesome gimmick. I am all about it.
Especially
Matt
in AEW.
Matt from 2.0, or they're not going to be 2.0 anymore, but Matt, who is, if you remember, Jericho kept calling him Squarehead. It's Matt and Jeff are the two guys. But he's hyping up Jericho and saying that, if it was up to him, the Judas music wouldn't be playing. But he's like, that's why Jericho's a better man than me. And Jericho gets on the mic, dude. He's just hyping himself up. And eventually Jericho says, he's not a pro wrestler. He is a sports entertainer. Dude, genius. Genius to get heat. Like, there's so much he can do with this now. It's I could just keep talking about it. Like,
I didn't see this
at all. Daniel Garcia gets on the mic and he says, if Jericho is a sports entertainer, then I am too.
And you hear like the crowd was like, no.
Matt and Jeff of 2.0 are changing their names, and they aren't going by 2.0 anymore. It's like Cool Hand Matt something, and then like it's like something ridiculous, basically, that a company like WWE would come up with.
He's like, we'll use our real names,
but they're giving him like weird nicknames, like how Keith Lee was Bearcat Keith Lee, like, so they're like Cool Hand Matt, whatever, and then Jeff has his own new name, and it's just, I see what they're doing, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
And Jericho was talking about that, he donated money to Daniel Garcia's accident that he had a few years ago, and that's why Daniel Garcia is with Jericho. And again, that's another thing, like WWE sometimes brags about what money they donate and their sports entertainment. Like, this is just another one. Like, genius, dude. Fucking genius. Jake Hager gets on the mic. He says, we are the JAS and we beat up pro wrestlers. They say 2022 is the era of the sports entertainer. Love it, dude. I hated it like when it happened like last week and turn the name. And I'm like, this guy just gets to be big headed and hype himself up all the time. And it's awesome. Yeah. It's so good. There's so much you can do with it.
Yeah, that line of like, we're sports entertainers and we beat up pro wrestlers is amazing.
And they're in a pro wrestling dominated company. Tim, you've been quiet. What's your thoughts?
I get it. Yeah, I thought it was good. I like the heat. That
You don't like it?
No, I do.
Okay, all right.
No, I do like it.
Yeah, like I get the thought process behind it. And it's like, dude, genius.
Yeah,
dude, the guy just keeps reinventing himself. Like,
I like him better.
And it makes the gimmicks work.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, because the Inner Circle was awesome at first, and then they became like baby faces, and
it is kind of for Jericho. It seems like when he's a baby face, it seems like he's just waiting around to be the next heel.
Yeah. So I love this segment, guys. It helps people like the guys from 2.0 and Daniel Garcia. It also gives a push. They still never do anything with Jake Hager. I don't get what's going on with him, but
I don't even know if he wants a push.
Yeah.
He's just like, I'll stand next to Chris.
So after this, we had Scorpio Sky versus Wardlow. Wardlow's getting his TNT Championship match. At one point, at the end, Shawn Spears walks out, though. And well, first, how did you guys feel about the match? I thought it was good. Wardlow got to shine a little bit.
Yeah, I thought it was. I
didn't think it was anything crazy.
It wasn't
anything crazy, but it was good.
Yeah. I don't like the American Top Team stuff at all. Still,
no. And I'm about to get into that because there was some stuff I'm just like, why? You just gonna wait till I talk about the American Top Team stuff, Tim? Is that what you were about to get into?
Yeah, I have a story from the barbershop of a customer who's not a pro wrestling fan, but he's an MMA guy, and he was asking me questions. So we'll get into it when we get there.
Okay. So yeah, towards the end of the match, Shawn Spears walks out and distracts Wardlow, and MJF pushes Wardlow into the steel post. Scorpio Sky wins with a roll-up, which was weird after Wardlow was dazed from getting pushed into the post. So the winner and still TNT champion was Scorpio Sky. Afterwards, Wardlow gets attacked by Austin Vanderford from American Top Team, not even a wrestler. He just gets attacked by one of the American Top Team guys. I don't know if this is the guy that's like married or dating Paige Van Zandt, but
yeah, he's married.
He's out there. Okay, it is that guy. MJF is in the corner watching Scorpio Sky hold Wardlow as Shawn Spears is about to attack, and then Wardlow breaks out of it, and he takes out Scorpio Sky and Shawn Spears. And then Shawn Spears, though, ends up hitting Wardlow with a chair shot.
I'm glad Wardlow put his hands up for it, because I hate when they just let it hit their head, like, unprotected.
Well, first Shawn Spears hits him with chair shots, that wobbles him. And then Austin Vanderford again, random fucking Austin, chokes out Wardlow. Yes. And then they hold Wardlow up, and Shawn Spears, the chairman, goes for a chair shot to the head. And very last minute, Wardlow puts up his fucking hands. I thought it was going to be another JBL and Eddie Guerrero fucking situation, dude. He whipped that thing down. But MJF, quote unquote, pays off Dan Lambert for, I guess, helping them out, helping them to get to attack Wardlow and all this stuff. And then it ends with MJF hitting Wardlow with a dynamite ring. So this feud that we've talked about has finally begun, and I called it last week. I said MJF is going to get involved in this match. Scorpio Sky is going to retain, and that's how you get the feud started. So Tim, what were you going to say about the
American Top? No. I have a customer who, I don't know, he probably hasn't watched wrestling. He's like one of those dudes who hasn't watched it since, like, I don't know, Stone Cold Steve Austin became popular. So he only knows like very little. But he's an MMA guy. He watches like UFC and like all that stuff. So he's like, dude, what's up with American Top Team and MMA people being on this AEW thing? And I was like, I'm even surprised you heard about it. Again,
you're like, it's my least favorite segment of the show.
Well, him as an MMA fan, like one of those purist guys, he does
bring eyes over, I guess.
Okay, so he told me, he's like, so AEW is getting pretty big, right? This is like the fourth person that is not a wrestling person that has been like, so this AEW thing, like, seems like, I don't know if it's because of how many commercials they run or the advertising, but I honestly think that the general consensus, or whatever you want to call it, of people that are just casual people, they're like, WWE's the big one, but yeah, these AEW guys look like they're getting pretty big. Like, I feel like even the regular,
like they're comparing it to like the old WCW. It's gonna eventually, like, even the average person's gonna be like, yeah, there's like two main companies now.
Well, I mean, dude, think about
AEW and it's WWE.
TNA when they were on Spike TV, and they had like at one point
killing it.
They thought they were killing it, but they had no advertising. I never had anybody back then be like, so like TNA is getting pretty big. Like, no one ever said that. But for AEW, I feel like they do say that, you know?
Yeah. TNA back then should have been big because their roster was stacked.
It was so stacked. It's just like, it was not that good if you go back and watch some of the shows. Like, the matches were good, but like the stories and behind the scenes stuff is like, oh.
Yeah. Like, you had good wrestlers there, but like whoever was doing, I don't know if it was Vince Russo doing the writing then.
Bro.
I know at some point he did, but.
Bro.
Scum of the earth.
We gotta get some TNA on the show if it's called TNA.
What does Jim Cornette call him?
Shit stain.
He calls him something. Shit stain. He wants to piss on his grave. I know that.
Well, I know Turner, because they're on Turner, so like Turner's really good at advertising their shows. Because you'll see them on like March Madness is on right now, and they'll constantly show it.
Yeah, I think being on a network like Spike TV or something at the time really did hurt, TNA's thing. But because you would think that I know we're kind of getting off track, but like bringing over stars like Kurt Angle and Booker T and like Kevin Nash and even Hogan would have brought some eyes over. But yeah, I mean, if you didn't watch Spike TV, you would really have no idea that there was another company out there. But with AEW, you kind of see it everywhere.
I honestly,
I've seen AEW advertisements on ones that isn't a TNT or TBS show.
Look, I actually thought the 6-sided ring was kind of cool, but I also can see
I liked it.
That if you were looking through the channels, you would be like, "The fuck is this?" So like,
you're like
I kind of get both sides, you know.
Well, it's almost like you'd be flipping through, and if it's NFL, and then you're like XFL, it's kind of like, what the fuck is this? Like, I get they're the same, but they're different, you know.
Yeah, it's like,
and we'll also
it's not the same.
Yeah, that when Hogan came in, I feel like he kind of ruined it too.
Yeah, they were awesome before that. Yeah, Andy wasn't watching during that time, but so he missed the whole like redo of the when they tried to redo the Monday Night War, and it was like awful.
Oh yeah,
just a fail.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
Let's get back on track.
We went on a tangent.
So after the MJF Wardlow stuff, we had Jade Cargill backstage, and then we had the debut match of they are now going by the Hardys.
Good choice.
Which I don't know if they have to or they chose to. Hey, they're not boys anymore. They're not young men. Like, the Hardys makes complete sense, and I'm not mad at it at all. Like, you know. But you know what I will get tired of, or I'm getting tired of, and I know they've only had one match. I think it's Excalibur, or maybe it's Tony. He keeps saying the Hardy Brothers. Dude, just call them the Hardys. It's like every time it's like the Hardy Brothers in the ring, the Hardy Brothers this, the Hardy Brothers that. I'm just like, please stop. Just, I don't know. I don't know why it's bothering me. Maybe I'm just nitpicking.
Man with the mask, you've done nothing for me. That's what William Regal said.
He did say that. William Regal told Excalibur. So you're right. No, he was on commentary then. Because that's when he said to Excalibur.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
You were right, Jeremy. Okay. Yeah, because he thanks JR as well. He's like, I know I didn't say anything, but you helped me a lot too.
Man,
so yes, the Hardys.
For me.
So the Hardys had their first match in AEW versus Private Party. Fans were real hot to see, Jeff get tagged in, and do his thing. And, of course, Hardys get the win with Jeff doing the Swanton bomb off the top rope. And, dude, he just landed.
This one.
He landed so hard. Like, there was no roll out of it. It was just flip, flop,
he landed and pinned.
Yeah, he landed into the pin. Like, so the winners were the Hardys. The Andrade family office come out to start some shit, and then Sting and Darby Allin come out, and I mean, Sting and Darby and the Hardys, have some alliance going on against the Andrade family office right now. So we'll get into that more once we get into Rampage for a little bit, but you seem to be doing something.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed seeing the Hardys, tagging, teaming up again, and now just in a different company. It feels right this time around with AEW. It feels like this is where they should be.
Yeah. And I feel like this first match was kind of like, I don't want to say like they were rusty, because they weren't really that rusty, but it was kind of like this, that getting used to each other again, even though they've been wrestling for years. But yeah, I just think like from now on, it's going to get better and better with them.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Any thoughts, Tim?
Yeah, I hope this becomes like the kind of the new norm for the Hardys. I like seeing them together. I like Jeff as a single, and I'm sure they'll do that eventually. But it is nice that they're doing one more nostalgia run together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, they always have, like, I think the Young Bucks are like the only guys that rarely have singles matches. All the other teams like will end up doing a singles match against one other guy from another team, but like the Young Bucks never really do.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we'll see some solo Jeff stuff going on.
It'd be cool to see like Jeff and then like Nick Jackson or someone. Like one-on-one.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen them in tag matches before, but never, just one-on-one. So after that, we had Red Velvet backstage, and this led into our main event. And it was a lot better than their match on the pay-per-view.
1,000 times
this was 1,000 times better. It was Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa in a steel cage match in San Antonio, Texas, which is Thunder Rosa's hometown. And this match had a lot of everything kind of in it. There was like crazy amount of chairs, which got built into like a pyramid. And after banging Britt Baker's head off the cage, she flopped flat back onto this pyramid. It was stiff. Yeah.
He built something that was not going to collapse.
They brought out, or Britt brought out the tacks. At one point, she tried to do her. Is it called the lockjaw?
Yeah.
Her submission, but Thunder Rosa bit her fingers.
That's a cool spot.
So she couldn't do that. Britt Baker's friends, Rebel and Jamie Hager, couldn't get involved in this. This is the way you do a steel cage where you can't escape. That's how you should do it.
JR was very excited.
That's the whole. That's the whole point of it. That's the whole point of a steel cage is you shouldn't be able to escape, or at least I think originally when it was like thought of.
So hang on. This is the old school guys got a butt in here for a second. The cage match is supposed to keep people in. It's literally the whole point. Only in the WWF is the rules, or the WWE is the rules to escape the cage, which is stupid.
Yeah. Even JR say that, and he's like, "This is how it should be." Like, all right,
well, he's right.
But see, what they did instead eventually is Hell in a Cell, which for the most part people do stay in, but sometimes people do get out.
Yeah. That's why I was saying.
For the most part, people stay in Hell in a Cell.
I think it was like the next day or whatever. I was like, the ring was smaller for this show. It was like 16 by 16, which it's usually I think it's 24 by 24. But they made it
that much smaller.
I think it was. I think that's what the measurements are. But they made it that way so they can get those spots with the chairs and everything, so they can actually go into the ring.
And you said you noticed it during the Jericho appreciation stuff, right?
Yeah, I just noticed it because the camera, like when they cut across it, they're like that. I forget what camera shot it is, but it's like that when it goes like cuts across through the ring, and you can see the crowd and all that. But it just looked really small with him standing in it. I was like, that has to be something different. And apparently that's average, like that's normal size over in like Europe, like because they don't have a lot of space.
Okay. So that's interesting. Yeah. A little fun fact.
Yeah, I just didn't know.
But yeah, so this match was really good. I thought it was a lot better than their match at Revolution, and I think looking back, it made sense to do it this way. But the winner in the end was Thunder Rosa, and she is finally your AEW Women's Champion. I think, after all the storytelling they've done over the past couple of years with these two in general, even before Britt Baker was champion, this all culminated to this, and I think it was the right time to take off Britt Baker, and it was the right person to put the belt on.
Yeah, I didn't realize either it was a year ago when they had that hardcore match on the St. Patrick's Day Slam show. Yeah. So that was like even another good storyline reason to do it now. And the pop that she got from her hometown, just the entrance alone, was insane.
Aubrey, the ref, got tacks in her arm.
Yeah, when she was counting, it was like right in the tack.
Yeah, by the way, I also saw online that people were giving Britt Baker shit, saying that tacks in wrestling are fake.
No,
dude,
no.
Let me tell you something right now, dude. If you're one of those people and you're listening right now, get some eyes, bro. What are you doing?
There's videos of people, like Jericho has pulled like tacks out of him in like videos backstage, and like you see him stuck in them. Like what? How else would they stick to someone's back?
That's about as stupid as people when people say, "Oh, isn't it ketchup?" I'm like, how much ketchup do you think they have?
Also, ketchup doesn't run thin like that, and it's not that color.
And also, it would smell awful. Everybody in the whole arena would be like, "Ew, dude."
Dude, ketchup to me that has like been sitting out for a little bit on like a plate is a terrible smell.
So when people are like, "Yeah, it's just ketchup," I'm like, "Okay, it's not ketchup." Like, fuck off.
The wrestlers would be like throwing up by it, just like getting in their nose and mouth.
God, I can smell that just thinking about
it. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. But any thoughts on this match, Tim, and Thunder Rosa being the new champ?
I thought it was cool. Yeah, it is time. Maybe give somebody else a try with the belt. If it doesn't work out with Thunder Rosa and it becomes one of those situations,
fans do like her.
Yeah, and if she, but Britt can always get the title back. You know what I mean? She's like that Charlotte character almost, where it's like, she could just re-win it.
I think next week they're going to be in Britsburg, Pennsylvania. Maybe, or at least it's coming up. But I wouldn't be surprised, if she took a break for a little while, kind of like Kenny, just, you've been champ for so long and going. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if she...
So.
Yeah, that's for sure. But yeah, so that wrapped up Dynamite. What are we looking at, guys? We're about like almost an hour in, so I'm going to try to run through this as quickly as possible, but still be able to talk about it. But so Smackdown this week opened up with Roman Reigns segment and the Bloodline with Paul Heyman. He's talking about how Brock's supposed to be there tonight, and then Heyman tells him no, his flight got delayed, and so then
Roman's happening in WWE. It's always the reason,
dude. It's only time. It doesn't happen everywhere else.
Yeah.
And so Roman goes off basically talking shit, and then Heyman checks his phone. He's like, by the way, this is only like a few minutes after telling Roman that the flight's been delayed. Now he's like, he's landed. Like, okay. And they're like, yeah, and he's on his way here. So they all leave the ring. They go to the back. He's not just on his way here, dude. Brock Lesnar's fucking there. All right. So they get in this Suburban, and they're about to drive away. And obviously, this all had to have been filmed previously because of the way they were cutting it. Then Brock Lesnar's driving up with like a forklift, pretty much, and he's going straight for the Suburban. And the forklift smashes into the car. And the windows are all broken, and then they pan to a different camera, and now you can see Roman and the Bloodline, everyone in there, and they're like, "What the fuck's going on?" Brock's honking the horn on his big forklift shit, and then Brock starts moving the vehicle with the forklift, and he flips it. Eventually, the Bloodline and all of them, they get out and they hop in another truck. And as they're closing the doors, Brock runs up and he ends up ripping the door off, the back door of the truck that they got in. This leads into a Brock Lesnar segment because Brock walks out to the arena with the door.
So after he just
puts on the
attempts murder.
Yeah, WWE, they don't murder people, all right? They just make them go away for a little bit, all right?
We didn't kill him,
so
just made him disappear.
Just made him disappear. Yeah, put a man in a concrete crypt. Doesn't kill him. He just makes him disappear for a little bit. Or I think there was a time Big Show like chokeslammed Kurt Angle off of like some part in the back, and he fell like 20 feet. Do you remember? And there was a big blood pile.
Dude, I was like
spilled.
I was like 12 when that happened, and I remember like being like, I know that this is like entertainment. But I was like, did he just kill Kurt Angle?
Something. Okay, so I'm glad you remember that segment because it was just a SmackDown segment. But yeah,
I mean, I was deep in. Like, I knew about kayfabe. I was reading books at that point. Like but I was still like, bruh,
did they just kill Kurt Angle? So yeah, Brock's in the ring and basically again talking about like you drew first blood, Roman, and he's leaning on this door. I don't know. It's furthering their storyline. I feel like Brock now though is kind of saying the same things every week. At least the past 2 weeks, he basically has said the same thing after being attacked at Madison Square Garden by them. So that was that segment. Again, I am excited for this match. One thing I forgot to say when we were talking about Raw. What I read today about the Kevin Owens segment with Steve Austin, that's going to be the main event of day one of WrestleMania.
The KO show.
I think they're going to get a little bit more physical than just like a talk show. Like,
yeah.
Stone Cold, I think, is like doing some training, but yeah, apparently that's the rumor right now. Is that's the main event on day one. Not like a Charlotte. I don't know what day Charlotte and Ronda is going on. I know Brock and Roman will be main event of day two.
Yeah. They said
but
Cody
like the
and
main
Seth
event not being
2.
a title match. Yes, and Cody and Seth is supposed to be day two. But yeah, you're not doing a title match for the.
Yeah.
I mean, I get why they're doing it because it's fucking Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah, but just do it like, midway through this 4-hour show.
Yeah, I don't know. But moving on, as I always say, Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville's match is now an anything goes match. So they have now gotten a stipulation added to that. Shayna Baszler and Natalya got added to the women's tag team title match at Mania. So now it's a fatal four-way of Shayna Baszler and Natalya, who I guess they're a team now. Naomi and Sasha Banks, Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, and the champions Carmella and Zelina. I guess this is a way to get, more women on the show. And I mean, they do kind of have a big women's roster now. So you can get everyone on Mania, or at least, some of the main people. Good on you. Later on the show, Pat McAfee gets told by Michael Cole, Pat, you got to go to Vince's office. And he's like, we're live right now. And he's like, I know, but you got to go. So Pat walks to Vince's office, and eventually they show a camera of him walking out, and he comes to the ring. And Pat's saying stuff like, he turned on wrestling one week, and I forget. He said he turned on USA Network. He said a little network, no name network. Is what he called it. I'm like, dude, that's the network you're on right now. I'm calling it a no name network, by the way. Oh wait, no, that was Fox. Sorry, they're on SmackDown at this point. So, but he's saying, I guess Raw back in the day was on USA, and he talks about how he fell in love with wrestling, and he knew that's what he wanted to do, but other sports got in the way. And then eventually he got a call from Michael Cole to come to the WWE. And he's now has a match at WrestleMania. But what Vince McMahon told him to do was to apologize to Austin Theory. And Austin Theory comes out and says, "You owe me an apology." And McAfee goes, well, first of all, he has to apologize or he loses his match. Or he gets it taken away from him at Mania. That was the whole point of why he has to apologize. And Pat McAfee goes, "I'm sorry." He can't do it. And then he's like, tries again, can't do it. And Austin's like, "Come on, you gotta do it or you lose the match." And he's like, "I'm sorry, I beat your ass basically last week." I think he says, he's like, "I'm sorry, I absolutely kicked the shit out of you." He says, "I'm sorry, your parents raised such a douchebag." Damn. Like, "I'm sorry, he says, "I'm sorry, you're such a little bitch." And which apparently counted as the apology because it was all right. But look, I like Pat McAfee. I really do. I think he's one of my favorite commentators right now in WWE.
He can cut a better promo than most wrestlers right now.
Yeah, surprisingly. I mean, after watching that, yeah. I mean, you gotta think though. He's also always on commentary. He's always talking. So, and he does the podcast every week, which, he's just talking all the time. So, he gets a little training for that kind of stuff. I'm actually kind of looking forward to the match. Last time I saw Pat McAfee in a match, I think was War Games, and maybe it was everyone else making him look good, but he did good.
Yeah,
a lot better than some other celebrities that come in, and do stuff. I know they gave him a ring at one point to train with.
Yeah, he has one in his compound too.
Yeah. But the main event segment of the night was Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey. Charlotte Flair basically, they were in the ring and basically beat the shit out of Ronda Rousey. Ronda tried to fight back, but she ends up powerbombing Ronda through the table on the outside of the ring, the commentary table. The week before, I don't think we had talked about it, but they had a backstage brawl at the end of the night, and they were slamming each other on cars and shit. So yeah, just furthering their storyline. I think we only have 2 weekends from now. We're going to be...
It's the first weekend of April, right?
Yeah, April 2nd, I believe, is the first night. Yeah. And I'm actually going over Tim's place that day, and we're going to be watching the first night together. So maybe we can do stuff pod related, Tim.
I'm always down
that night while I'm over there. So that wrapped up SmackDown, though. There's a few things I wanted to talk about when it comes to Rampage this week. First off, the opening match was Darby Allin versus The Butcher. Match was okay. Winner was Darby Allin via countout, which is something they don't really ever do in AEW. But afterwards, the AFO, I keep wanting to say AHFO, but it's not that anymore. So the Andrade Family Office comes out and attacks. Then the Hardys come out, and they come out to save Sting and Darby. And the Hardys are rocking a new shirt. They already have shirts made. And it's half of it, it's kind of cool, but half of it says the Hardys at the top. Half of it is Matt's face doing his V1, and the other half is Jeff's face doing his throwing up the guns. And I think at the bottom it says blood over everything.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Okay. So because of this, the Hardys come out to save them. They have announced that next week it's going to be Sting and Darby Allin and the Hardys versus the Butcher and the Blade and Private Party. So I'm actually looking forward to that tag match on Dynamite. You with us, Tim?
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure.
No, I'm sorry. I just was reading something. But no, I'm with you, brother.
Okay. So I don't know if you guys noticed, but Chris Statlander came out at one point during the night, and she has a little bit of a gimmick change. She's not bright colors anymore.
Yeah.
She's wearing all black. I think the symbol on her face, the painted symbol, is a darker symbol now.
Yeah.
Maybe.
She got rid of the alien.
Yes, the alien gimmick is now finished.
I heard that they were gonna, and I heard that she really liked that gimmick, so someone must have talked to her about it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the main event of the show was Max Caster of the Acclaim versus Keith Lee. Thought this was a good match. The winner was Keith Lee, but at the end, Powerhouse Hobbs and Ricky Starks, who I believe were on commentary, come down and they attack Keith Lee. And while they're attacking him, Swerve Strickland comes out to save Lee. So I'm guessing at some point we're going to get a tag match, Swerve and Keith Lee versus Powerhouse Hobbs and Ricky Starks.
That could actually be pretty good.
Yeah. I think it'll be good.
So that wrapped up Dynamite. One thing I want to mention, to the fans, all three of us are going to Dynamite May 4th or May 5th?
4th, because it's May the 4th.
Okay. Yes, that's right. That's how Tim remembers what day it is.
May the 4th be with you.
May the voice be with you.
May the voice.
May the voice. So maybe I was thinking, maybe we can film some stuff while we're there, or like on the way.
Yeah, I'm excited.
For the pod.
If anybody's going to be there, probably unlikely, but say hi to us. That'd be cool.
It's in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Yes, it's in Baltimore at UMBC's.
Yeah,
campus.
if you're around Maryland and you want to come see us, come say hi.
The force is with us in Maryland on the 4th.
All right. So, but yeah, anyway, we'll be there. So that'll be cool. We're so super excited.
Yeah. But guys, that wraps up the show. That wraps up everything.
Well, that about wraps it up. Well, seriously, thank you guys so much for joining us again for episode 28. Just want to say one more time that Scott Hall, this episode is dedicated to you, and thank you so much for all your influence that you've had in professional wrestling, because you've changed the business forever. And a lot of it was stuff like me for when I was a kid and I grew up. It just had such an impact on my life, so I really appreciate it. The only other thing I'll say this week is, because we didn't bring it up at the top of the show, is please go to YouTube and check out the PW Fan YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. We have all episodes up to date. Everything that we've ever recorded is up there right now, and there's videos starting around, I believe, like episode 19. And then please go to Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Leave us a review. That would be amazing. Andy's got a Instagram Funko Pop page if you're into collecting those. It's at the 410 Fan Bros on Instagram, and we are at the PW Fan on Instagram. I think that about wraps it up, though, guys. I appreciate everybody for joining us, and we'll be back for episode 29 next week. Thank you so much.